Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde.
Hello, my loves. Today's episode, I really want to talk about patterns, the energies that are coming up for this eclipse. I am recording this the week of the lunar eclipse in Virgo, which is a south node eclipse, which means it is bringing up old versions of ourselves, old patterns, old belief systems, all the things that maybe we thought that we had moved on from or thought that we had healed. And it's like, let's test that theory. Let us bring back these things and give us an opportunity to see how we respond or react differently. And wow, did a lot of old patterns and old beliefs and old energies arise for me. And we haven't even hit the eclipse yet. Virgo is my midheaven. So it's very much my persona, it's my audience, it's my career. That's kind of what your midheaven heaven is, right? The landscape of your life. And of course, I'm a Pisces moon sign, and Pisces is the one sign that I have the most energy of. And since a lunar eclipse is basically the sun reflecting off of the moon, this is very much both energies. So this is while the solar eclipse at the end of them in Aries at the end of the month is probably going to be more potent. This is just as equally as potent in the sense that it really is connecting to the newly shifted nodes of the North and South Node and all of this energy that we've had in Pisces and Virgo is, structures and discipline and perfectionism and our mental health and our physical health. And so there's all these things coming up, right? And my mental health this month has been shit. It just has. It has been in the toilet. I reconnected with therapy just to have somebody to talk to. When you become super self aware, it is really challenging to work with traditional therapists because they're taught, unless they're an intuitive therapist, unless they are holistic or whatever, however you want to say it, that are using more than what they're taught, it becomes challenging. And so I usually only use them as sounding boards to hear myself back, to be able to just verbally dump in a safe container and be able to listen to what it is that I am saying and hear that reflected back to me or reverberate back to me. And this time I didn't really have a choice in who I selected. I guess I could have um, said no and found somebody else, but I just went with whoever was appointed to me. And I do have complex post traumatic stress disorder. I do have that. And this woman did specialize supposedly in PTSD and CPTSD. However, after probably 4 or 5 sessions, especially the last 2 sessions, she had mentioned to me that she couldn't help me because I was already doing all of the things that she would have suggested. And that was hard for me to hear because it's like, oh, I can't help myself. So I decide to go get some help. And you can't help me. And their answer was to put me on SSRIs. And while there's nothing wrong with that, if you are somebody who is taking Prozac or Zoloft or anything like that, again, no shame in that. But that is not something that I'm willing to do. I did that in 2016 and it led me to the edge of suicide, which I know is rare in adults, but I actually know several adults that had the opposite effect where it made them actually want to end things more. And I've done a lot of research on these drugs, and in the long run, they're not great for you. That's why it's meant to be a band-aid while you get your shit together, and it's not meant to be a long-term thing. And so I just decided, no, I'm not going to do that, and I'm not going to take it. And I actually told my therapist, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off of therapy because you've already said you can't help me, and it's not helping me, right? In fact, I felt like it was almost making it worse the last couple of weeks. My mental health was just it was in the tank. It really was. It was in the tank. It was not good. Yet at the same time I say that, I did such a good job of navigating it and not fighting it. Of course, nobody wants to feel like death. And there's such an energy of death in the collective right now. Um, but I'm here, and every day I wake up and I say everything that I'm grateful for. And I take deep breaths and I remember what's happening in the world and what's happening in my energy field, and the fact that I have shifted into higher frequencies and I'm being asked to let go and release and all of the things. So as we approached this eclipse, as we're approaching this eclipse the past 2 weeks, I've noticed some old patterns resurfacing. And to be honest, one of them, and I'm probably not going to get into all of the patterns, but one of them, um, as I mentioned I did a energy update on a solo for just the eclipse, just this upcoming eclipse in Virgo, aside from my big March energy update. And I talked about how eclipses are usually seated, especially lunar eclipses. Lunar eclipses are seated with the new moon. That's usually about 6 months prior to it. And so when I look back at the past 6 months, I can see one of those patterns that have kind of been there the whole time. And in fact, I had just told my sister-in-law like a week ago, I was like, this pattern showed up and I had fallen victim to it again. And I was like, I don't understand why I have to keep repeating this cycle. I am having a hard time seeing what it's trying to show me and or how it's serving me, right? Because when we stay stuck in a pattern, it's serving us to some aspect, even if it's not a good serving, right? It's fulfilling some need, a version of you, right? There's an inner child or an ego personality that it's serving. It's doing something for you, or you wouldn't keep doing it. And I couldn't see in that moment why I keep repeating this one cycle. And I still don't know, to be honest. I have not gotten that clarity yet. And I'm hoping that as the eclipse moves through, we get to the other side of it, it will no longer be eclipsed. I will have that grand clarity. And so I know the clarity is coming because I'm open to it. I have become utterly aware of that one pattern. But then there was some other patterns that showed up. And relationships for me, dating for me has always been one of my biggest mirrors. When you have an abandonment wound, the way that I do, that has kind of infiltrated your whole entire life, your friendships, your romantic relationships, your finances, that abandonment wound has just infiltrated so much of my life. It's such a base program because of how early that program was created and how long I've been running it. It takes time and consistency and persistence and patience to reprogram something that runs that fucking deep. So anyway, one of the patterns that I have seen in my romantic relationships, and honestly, even some of my friendships, is I attract people that need me more than they want me, or who I believe I can fix or save. And the reflection back to myself is I I wanted somebody to save me. I wanted somebody to fix me. I was looking for the easy way out, like somebody save me, somebody fix me. And that came from a legit place. As a child, I was not just abandoned, I was neglected. I was severely physically abused. I was molested. I was raped. I was mentally abused. I was emotionally neglected. That is a lot of fucking trauma. And I'm going to pause here and say, I'm still fucking standing. So that means that whatever I've been doing is working because I'm not just standing, I'm serving my community as I speak. I'm there for others who seek out assistance from me. I am a good person. I have a big heart. I'm still thriving in spite of that. But with all those things that happened, I was a child. I was a little girl. In my new book that I am just now starting to edit, I go way more deep, I go way in depth into my trauma that I didn't go as far into in Holy Grail. But when I was a preteen, early teen, and I was being physically abused by my stepmother, my father abandoned me for a bottle of Jim Beam. He chose to drink and to check out, to not look at, to not deal with what was happening to me. He was in almost like a state of denial and avoidance. And when you're young, when you're any age, honestly, but when you're a child, especially, and you know that they know what's happening and they're allowing it, it would be a natural thing to think that you're the problem, that something's wrong with you. Because if not, why wouldn't they save you? Why wouldn't they stop this horrific thing that's happening to you? And that's heavy. And so that desire to want my dad to save me still runs in my veins. It's still in my bones. Because as my bones were developing, as my structure was growing and developing and hardening, because our bones are soft as a child, as they were solidifying and strengthening, those energies were infused into my bones. And it became a base program. And so I spent a lifetime trying to save people because I wanted someone to save me. So back to the pattern at hand. I have been doing so good in the dating world to where I was attracting these beautiful men who reflected back how I see my worth. Men who allowed me to be in my feminine, who took care of me, treated me well, all of those things. I have been doing really good at not attracting the riffraff of people who need me and versus who want me, right? Who are choosing me. Well, the past few weeks, that shifted and I attracted both sides of the spectrum. And I kind of have to laugh about it because there used to be this pattern, right? Where it's like, the ones you want don't want you, and the ones you don't want are fucking chasing you. And that is what happened over the past few weeks. There was this man, and I don't know if he's going to hear this. I'm sure I know some of the guys that I meet, talk to, date, they find my podcast. So, hey, if you're one of them, we're not going to use names. So don't worry, nobody will know who you are. But there was this man, this gorgeous, beautiful man who has literally been chasing me for months. I blocked him at one point, not because he did anything wrong, just because he just was annoying me. And I don't like to be mean to people. So I was like, I'm just gonna mute you. I'm just gonna block you. I don't think he created the profile to get to me, but he created another profile, reached me that way. We were in a Facebook singles group together with a bunch of other people. Like there's all these things, but he kept asking me out and I kept saying no. I have a standard. Ask me out in advance. I am not a last minute. I'm free. Come over. I'm not that girl. I'm I'm not that girl. And in fact, at one point, after I unblocked him, he had said to me, "Oh, your vibe is playing hard to get." I said, "Who's playing? Who's playing? I am hard to get. I am hard to get. I'm hard to get because I have standards. And actually, my standards are not even that difficult, bro. It's you have to be willing to put in the effort, right?" So him and I chatted, and he finally made the effort he said, "When are you available?" I told him when I was available. He picked a date and said, "Okay, look, I'll take Tuesday." Not even kidding, because I told him, I said, "My available is Tuesday and Wednesday." I said, "I'm busy the rest of the time, and then I'll be busy for like 2 weeks. So this is your chance. You want to take me out? You want to give me a different view of you? This is what you get." And I firmly went on the date, laughing with my sister-in-law before I left, going, "This is going to be like War of the Roses," because the persona he puts off, the mask he puts off on social media and through Messenger is one that's jaded and one that's angry and all of those things. And he is those things, by the way, internally, deep down. He has a lot of hurt and a lot of things. But anyway, I didn't know any other side of him. So I'm thinking we're going to go in, we're going to fucking clash heads. But I need to see what all the fuss is about. He's been trying for like 5 months to take me out. So, and he was gorgeous. Um, so why not? So I said yes. And I went out with him. And I got to see a different side of him. He let me in, I let him in. We had a really good night. All transparency, I stayed the night. The next day, I had a little bit of a situation that was out of my control, and he took care of everything. I didn't even sweat. In fact, this was another pattern within a pattern. So in November of last year, I attracted a man, a very toxic, disgusting, vile human being of a man, and I had agreed to go on a date with him. Halfway through the date, I left the date because it was so bad. But anyway, that night I lost my car keys, and I had to leave my car at the restaurant, and I had to get an Uber home, and the next day take an Uber back and pay $500 to have my car rekeyed. I was already having like all these terrible things that were happening. It was like the biggest tower moment, and it all was after that new moon that got seeded, right? All of those things happened. I had like this train wreck of tower moments at the end of last fall, which I've kind of talked a little bit about. So anyway, I woke up, I'm like, um, my purse isn't here. My purse was left at the restaurant. My car's there. I don't have my keys. I don't have my purse. Um, like this is not a good thing, right? I didn't even sweat that. He literally was on the phone. He's texting the bartenders at the restaurant. He's calling the owner of the restaurant. He's trying to figure it all out. He gives me his truck so I can go home and take care of my clients and do my thing. He just took care of it all. As I just kind of laid there and, he took care of me. I didn't have my allergy medicine. He got me allergy medicine. He like did all the things. He made me feel safe and protected. Here's the thing though. He's very avoidant. He's very avoidant. He's struggling internally. And I don't, I know he's not ready for anything. But something happened between us. And I went from kind of hating him to really liking him. And then within 72 hours, feeling those intoxicating feelings that come with limerence, like they're a drug. That's the way that it feels. It feels like they're a drug where you thirst for them and yearn for them. And then your mind starts to obsess over them. And then your mind starts to romanticize them. And then you feel this energy of wanting to chase them and consume them. And it is a feeling that years ago I chased and I loved. I loved the highs and lows. It's like why people become drug addicts, right? Because it gives them this high and they just yearn for it. Oh, it's like they can't, and then they get that little bit and they're like, oh, like it hits that spot and then the chase begins again, right? It only lasts for so long. And I caught myself in this because he had opened up to me that he was struggling and I wanted to save him. And I thought, oh my gosh, this part of me is still here that wants to be saved, that wants a man to do for me what I'm trying to do for him right now. Yet at the same exact time, there were two other men who were blowing me up, who I really did not want anything to do with. And I really didn't have a whole lot of interest in, who were like, what can I do for you? I want to love you. I want to give you the world. I want to do this. And I'm like, no thanks. I don't want it from you. And I'm like watching this going, holy shit. I'm in this pattern that I thought was gone. I thought this pattern was dead and gone. And nope, it's well and alive. Here it is. Here I am wanting to chase after this man while running from two men that I don't want. And it's just this big circle. And I have while I'm more secure in my attachment than I've ever been before, my base programming is disorganized. So I swing between avoidant and anxious. So here I am being anxious with one and avoidant with two. It was hilarious. And I can laugh about it because I'm very aware of the pattern. So anyway, I caught myself in the limerence of 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 feeling this chemical imbalance in me where I was like craving him and wanting to smother him and envelop him. And I was like, ugh, this is not healthy. And I don't want to do it. And I had one of the um, guys that was chasing after me, he was being that way towards me. And I was like, ugh, I don't want this. So when I felt myself doing that to the guy that I liked, I was like, no, I just witnessed what that feels like. I am not going to do that to him. When I know damn well that what I am feeling has nothing to do with him. Limerence has everything to do with the emotional memory that is in your nervous system from your childhood programming. That's exactly what it has. So I kept telling myself, this has nothing to do with him. And it has everything to do with me as a child wanting my father to save me and and looking at what can I do to get him to love me enough to take care of me, to save me. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And this is exactly what I was doing and feeling towards this guy that I liked. I was literally like, oh my God, I can bring you lunch. Oh my God, I can come over at 10 o'clock at night as soon as you get off work. Oh my God, I can do this. And I was like, what in the fuck, Johanna? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. It has nothing to do with this. You've spent 12 hours with this man. You don't know him. This feeling has nothing to do with him. You are still craving dad. You are still craving that little girl inside is still desperately seeking a way to earn the love that should have been inherent, the protection that should have been inherent. So I am damn, damn, damn proud of myself because I stopped. I stopped and I walked away from it and I said, no, no. He has to walk his path. He has to walk his path. I have to walk mine. And what I'm feeling has nothing to do with him. Nothing. And those other guys are just a reflection. And so the one that was super, super needy, I had to have a conversation with him, several conversations with him, and it didn't feel good. And so I just said, listen, this doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel good to me. This isn't what I want. I want to attract a partner who is secure in themselves. That doesn't mean that we don't have our moments where we need our person to love us more or to save us or protect us or take care of us. It doesn't mean that you don't have needs that your partner can meet and you don't have moments of weakness. That's not what it means. But it means that I want somebody who is willing to look at their shit, to regulate their shit, or ask for help in it, whether that's from me or from a therapist or from whoever the fuck, right? And that's what I was attracting before. And I was in some type of relationship with one for about 2 months. But within him, I know I'm kind of all over the place. So, good Lord, if you can follow this, I love you to death. It's hard when I don't give out names, and it's not my place to do so. But putting all of that down, I was seeing a man right before the middle of December until the beginning of the first week of February. So it was a little over 2 months, probably 9 weeks or so, that I was seeing him. Very secure in himself, very protective, um, very consistent. But I found myself lacking an emotional connection. And I also found myself showing up as a version of myself that was no longer someone I aligned to. And I had to get really honest with myself and say, as much as this man is consistent and secure and protective and would probably walk on fire, like walk on water for me or, coals for me, for whatever reason, I am showing up as an old version of myself, right? My past is calling and I keep fucking answering that phone. The old version of me is calling and I keep answering that phone. Why? So I ended things with him because I said, you know what? I don't like who I'm showing up as. I need to step away from you. Do you know that man has not stopped contacting me? And he's not from a needy perspective. He's very careful about how he does it and not from a calculated space. He's giving me space, but he has consistently reminded me that he's not giving up, that he's going to continuously check on me and make sure that I'm okay because he fucking really cares. And so I walked away from him because of this old pattern. This one pattern I'm not going to talk about because I haven't worked through it yet. And so it would not do me any good to expose it. But that's the pattern that showed up over the last 6 months. And I saw it when I was with him. When I was with him is when I was like, oh, this is the old Johanna. She's come back to life. And that's going to happen from time to time, especially as we're going through these shifts, especially as you're moving into the new earth frequencies. You are going to go through versions of you that need to kind of take the lead so that you can intricately see what the fuck you're doing. Because if you don't see it, you can't choose differently. And I wasn't seeing it. And then for whatever reason, in the safety of his space, I started coming home from spending the weekend with him going, I don't like this person I am. Where did this come from? And then I look back and I'm like, oh, this is an old pattern that's been showing up for the last few months. And it all started in September of last year when everything kind of went to shit out of nowhere. It wasn't out of nowhere. It was me preparing to move into higher frequencies. It was me having the deconstruction beginning of the old reality, of the old versions of me. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts that I did not surrender immediately. I fought it. And I fought it because I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it again. Sometimes surrender is about giving up is surrendering the things that you do like. Oftentimes we think of letting go of things that are hurting us, letting go of old beliefs, old programs, people, places, and things that are no longer aligned with us, but maybe we've been friends with them for 20 years. And so we just kind of stay out of obligation. No, but there are times when we really love somebody, we really love something that we're doing. It's working for us, but we are still being asked to let go. And that's what I was being asked to do. And I talked about this in past podcasts, and I didn't want to because for the first time in a long time, oh, I'm going to get a little emotional. Last year, for the first time in a long time, I was in a very deep, steady flow that I worked my ass off to get into. I spent 40 days hard reprogramming my mind, and it worked. But when I was asked to shift, that is when I fought it and it took me down. The same way when you're in the ocean and you get caught in a riptide and you fight it, you get sucked under it, right? The riptide for me was the shifting of the timelines and frequencies, and I got caught in between. One is trying to pull me in, and I'm trying to stay in the old, and I got stuck and I was drowning myself. And so I finally saw it when I was with him. And it helped that in December, the beginning of December, that is when that tsunami of light came in. And at first, it was really about I felt detached. And then I really shifted into apathy. And I think it was because I was in apathy that I was able to see it so clearly because it's not, again, I didn't, apathy isn't that you don't care, it's that you don't have any concern. Like, if I'm not here anymore, oh well. If I don't have any money, oh well. If this person leaves me, oh well. It's like you care, but what are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're not concerned one way or another. You're like, whatever, it'll work out however it's meant to. I'm not going to fight with it. I have no energy to deal with it. That's apathy. I felt empty. I felt apathetic. I felt detached. I felt alone. And these are all feelings that the guides say that we will feel when we move into new earth because we're all trying to enter the new frequencies, holding all the baggage of the old, and you can't do that. So they make you sleep, or they make you meditate, or they make you sick to help you release the shit. Hoy, these energies are no joke. And I'm good at managing my energy. I'm good with energetic boundaries. I'm an extrovert. I had to learn so that I could go be around people. I but as I just told a client today, and something I've said multiple times before, when we break through our current limits and we go through a period of expansion, and that happens when we move into new frequencies, we have no boundaries for a short period of time. We're busted wide open. We are vulnerable. We are extra sensitive. When you're going through a timeline shift, which is a frequency shift, when you're doing that, it's like you have no veil, you have no boundaries. You are sensitive to noise, to light, to people, to food. Everything is amplified for a short period of time. And as you enter the new frequencies and you start to get settled and integrated and get clear on what your new beliefs are, which become your new limits, then you start to be more solid in what your boundaries are because your boundaries are you, they're internal. What do you like and not like? What will you accept and not accept? Right? What do you value? What are your virtues? And that creates the next set of limits, if you will, that you will eventually break through when you go through another up level. While it's been challenging. I have spent, oh, when was that? That was last week. That was almost a week ago. Today is Monday, Tuesday. So it was 6 days ago that this happened with the guy, and about 3 days ago that I recognized that I was in limerence. And every day since then, I have felt the waves of withdrawal because that's what it feels like. It feels like a drug withdrawal, like you're withdrawing, like you're having withdrawals, and it's like you need a hit. I need, and you become obsessive. You want to look at his social media, and you look at your phone. Has he texted? What's he doing? Is he busy? Whatever. It's a fucking drug. It's a withdrawal. And I just feel it and go, whoa, dude, this is intense. And then tell myself, this has nothing to do with him. This has everything to do with dad. This has everything to do with mom. This has everything to do with thinking, what are they doing? What can I do to prove myself, to love them enough to make them want to love me? What can I do to get them to want to love me, to want to need me, to want me? In those moments, it's like, no, choose me, choose me, choose me. And it's like me going, hey, I got you. We don't need that. That is not healthy for us. Has nothing to do with him. We're trying to reconcile something that happened 42 years ago. We're trying to reconcile something that happened that we were incapable of understanding how to deal with because we were so young and undeveloped. And now we are old enough and we are aware enough and we are developed enough to reconcile it now. And that reconciliation is saying, I am saving you. I'm saving the little girl inside of me. I'm choosing to break that pattern and say no. And normally I would say and suggest that if you find yourself in limerence with somebody, block them, cut them out of your life completely, because it's going to be the easiest thing you can do. In this particular case, I am not doing that with him because more than anything, this man needs a friend. And people come into our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And while I may have originally wanted something more after thinking that I was going to hate this person, what I have come to realize is maybe we were drawn together because he needs to be able to see me be an example. He needs to see women in a different light. And all I have to do is be me. I don't need to chase him. I don't need to be his girlfriend. I don't need to do any of those things. But if he messages me and needs a friend, then I can be a friend to him. If not, I can hold space for him and send love his way. But I had to detach. And I want to practice detaching without cutting people out of my life. As a Scorpio rising and having Scorpio in my 12th house, my cutoff game is real good. And most of my life, if you fucked me over, you were dead to me. And I have since made amends with that part of myself. I don't do that anymore. And in fact, most of the people that I had blocked or considered dead to me, I have actually reached out to and made peace with. We're not necessarily friends, but I have made peace with all of those people because I needed to reconcile that part of myself. And I have. So I'm practicing detachment without it. But if you're not someone who's at that level yet, just let your block game be good because it's like being a drug addict in recovery. Maybe 10 years down the line, maybe even 5 years down the line, you can be somewhere where somebody's smoking pot or doing some type of drug, or maybe an alcoholic is a better example. Maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line, you can go to a bar and not drink because you're so practiced and well versed in self discipline. But in the beginning, you have to you have to cut it out. You have to cut out the people that drink. You have to cut out the people who do drugs. You have to walk away from that life until you are strong enough. And I know I'm strong enough to do this. It ain't easy. Mm-mm. It is not easy. And as we know, because I've said it on, I talk about it all the time, detachment, expectations, surrender, these are all life lessons for me, things I will be practicing for the rest of my life, things that I came in to master. It's what I'm here to master. Uncertainty, one of those things too. Yep. So I feel like I'm strong enough to do this, and I've been doing a pretty damn good job. But that was a crazy pattern to show up for sure. And it just made me look at the guy I walked away from, who accepted me 100% as I am, who was so protective, always text me when you get home. I was on a date. I was on, my dating game is really strong right now. No shame in my game. I really do want to find my person. Sometimes that means you got to date a million frogs. It's good practice. And I've met some amazing people and people who I will be friends with. So anyway, I went on this amazing date with this really kind man down in Galveston. And on my way home, D is what we'll call him, the guy that I had dated from December to February. We're going to call him D. D had messaged me, "What are you doing?" Or "How was your day?" I think he said, "How was your day?" I said, "Great. I had a great day. I was down in Galveston and I'm on my way home." And it's like a 2.5 hour, 2 hours if there's no traffic going through Houston. But it was 4:30 when I left. So I hit, if you have ever been to Houston, the traffic is worse than LA traffic. It's horrendous. And it took me 3 hours to get home that night. But he messaged, he's like, "Oh my God, you're going to hit such massive traffic." He said, "Please be safe. Let me know when you get home." And because it took me so long, he had already messaged me again, "Did you get home okay?" And I said, "Still not home yet." But when I did get home, I did tell him. But he would message me, "Have you eaten? Did you get home okay?" He didn't need to know the details, and never did he ask the details of what I was doing or who I was with. He was more concerned with if I was okay. And even though I ended things with him, he kept telling me, "It doesn't matter. I care about you. I want you in my life." And I look back and I think, do you know what peace is? Peace is calm. Peace is consistent. Peace is balanced. Homeostasis. It's boring. And that was another thing that went ding, 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 ding. I still had a part of me that was well and alive, who enjoyed the extreme highs and lows of inconsistent people in my life, not just romantic partners, friends, business, income, all inconsistent. And I realized over the past couple of months, really the past couple of weeks leading up to this eclipse, that the inconsistency of my parents, of having food, love, my needs met, swings from abuse to love bombing, that inconsistency is the drug. It's the extremes. Hello, Scorpio. But it's the extremes. Because the highs are high as high can be, but the lows are devastating. And when I hit the lows, my mental health was so in the toilet. that for a split second, I considered taking an antidepressant. And I had to pull myself up by my bootstraps and say, Johanna, no, no, you are strong enough to do this. And I know you're tired of being strong. I know you're tired of being strong. I know you're tired of trying to take care of yourself and be all the things that you need. I know you're tired of trying to reach some unreal benchmark of success that was set in your programming based upon the expectations of having to do things that most children should never know how to do or be asked to do. But you can do this. You don't need this medicine, because what that medicine is going to do when you get off of it, your body isn't going to be used to making dopamine and serotonin. It literally blocks it from being absorbed, which is so counterproductive. It's like a trick the drug plays on your brain. So then when you wean yourself off, you go through these gnarly withdrawals and your body has to now work overtime to start creating dopamine and serotonin again. And I'm like, I work out 5 to 6 days a week. That creates dopamine. I eat a super clean diet to help my gut health for serotonin, because that's where serotonin is created. I touch myself. I do all the things to create oxytocin in my body. I go to the sauna, which 10x's your dopamine, and it is sustainable. Like if you do a line of cocaine, you're going to be really high. And I'm saying this based upon what I've heard because I've never in my life done cocaine. But what they say is when you do cocaine, you get this really high dopamine hit, right? But then you crash. But when you sit in a sauna, that spike in your dopamine is sustained for a very long period of time. So I either sit in my sauna at home or I go to hot yoga, which is in an infrared sauna. I eat clean, I meditate, I journal, I listen to music, I get out in nature. I do all the things to increase the good hormones in my body and to really help my adrenals to stay in their normal size. Because when you start releasing cortisol, that's because your adrenals are starting to blow out. I was in stage 3 adrenal fatigue. It took me 4 fucking years to heal that shit. So it took 4 years for my adrenals to shrink back down to size so that they weren't blown out and releasing all this extra cortisol. So if you're someone who's struggling with cortisol, you have an adrenal problem. That means you're high on stress, you're doing too much, and you are stressing. And something that the guides said recently that I wrote down, I think I even said it somewhere, but um, stress is not caused from external things, ever. It's the reaction to the external thing, whether it's an internal state of fear and anxiety that you're not even expressing, that you're just holding, or that you're outwardly expressing. Like some people have meltdowns and freak out, and other people, they're just super fucking anxious inside. That's your reaction to whatever's happening in your environment. And that is causing your adrenals to expand, which releases excess cortisol. So if that's already something that's happening to you, you're on your way to burnout. So you have to learn to regulate your hormones. And that isn't just through diet and supplementation. It's through conscious work. It's through reprogramming your mind and your body. It's through putting yourself in the situations and microdosing being in those situations that normally trigger you or normally make you anxious so that you can acclimate to it. So I'm already doing all of those things, and you want me to take a pill that's going to block all that I've already done to trick my brain to create new neural pathways? Why don't I just take some fucking mushrooms and create new neural pathways? It like hit me. I was like, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to put a chemical into our body that's going to fuck things up down the line. We've done too much work to go backwards. We're going to move forward, even if it means I'm on my hands and fucking knees crawling 1 inch at a time. We will do it. For fuck's sake, I was a digital nomad with nothing, faced every survival fear. I can do this. I can do this. For fuck's sake, I was a child that experienced every kind of severe abuse you can, and I'm here. I can do this. And again, zero shame if you are on an SSRI or an anti anxiety pill or anything. This is not, please do not let this deter you. This is me and my story. So these were the patterns that showed up for me. Old version of me, right? I'm moving into the new version. The old version kept calling, and I kept picking up the fucking phone. So when you start to shift, if the old version of you calls, don't answer. Don't answer. Go no. That's not who we are anymore. We're not that person anymore. So I had an opportunity. Normally, if someone invites me to go out to a bar, I will go and I'll drink. I can't really drink anymore. Ever since I moved into the new earth frequencies, my tolerance is almost zero. My body will literally shut off and I will be asleep. My body's like, nope, close her down. And so my sister-in-law needed to blow off some steam. They never get out. And so we all decided to go out. And we went out to a honky tonk. I love me some two-stepping. I love to play pool. So I was like, okay, I'll go. I'm going to be the designated driver. I'm not going to drink. Plus, the place we were going to, they don't really serve anything that I like to drink anyway. And so I'm not going to drink just to drink. I'm not like that. And so I went. Do you know, we were out till 3:45 in the morning on a Friday night. We went out. I had the best fucking time sober. I had more fun sober than I ever have drinking. I had so much fun. So much fun. It was ridiculous how much fun I had. And then we left, we closed the bar down, and we had made some friends. And they said, if you've ever been someone who's drank at a bar, usually you find food when you leave the bar at 2 a.m. That's what they wanted to do. And they said, let's go to Waffle House. Well, I've never been to a Waffle House at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I was like, let's go. So it was about 2:30 actually when we got there, and we walked in, and there was all these young kids, right, in their 20s, and they were all like country dancing, line dancing, two-stepping, singing at the top of their lungs. The staff was in on it. It was a vibe. It was a vibe. And we came in, walked in, before we even sat down, we started dancing, we started singing, and then we all sat down and we had a great time and we had a good meal. I will never forget that night. It's not something I will probably do more than once a year, if that, but it was an experience and I had the most amazing time. And I proved to myself that I can go out and have fun and not touch alcohol, not eat things that I wouldn't normally eat. I can still enjoy myself and be me and honor me and not go back to those old habits and programming. And I proved to myself with this guy that I can sit and feel the withdrawals and the desire to get his attention and to get him to want me and go, it's really not him I want him to want. He's not the one I want to want me. I wanted my dad to want me enough to save me. I wanted my mom to want me enough to not leave me. It has nothing to do with him. I had the strength and the courage to talk on the phone to the gentleman who weeks before who was breadcrumbing me and be like, this is not okay. I'm not interested, and cut him off. The other guy who was smothering me, like, this is not okay. This doesn't feel good. I cut him off. I said, no. I was like consciously going, this is not healthy. This is not serving me. But it wasn't until I was able to fucking see the patterns and go, holy shit, this is like a whole bunch of old versions of me collaborating and going, hey, we're here for the party. And I'm like, you were not invited. What are you doing here? So here I am walking a whole bunch of versions of me home because guess what? No. And honestly, my mental health shifted dramatically 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And I just was like, when I actually, the day that I realized I was in limerence is when it all shifted. And I was like, oh, okay, guess what? Today is a new day. We're going to shift our frequency moment by moment. And that's okay. And some days that's where we have to be. But I am not going to allow old versions of me, old patterns to take back the reins. No, ma'am, that is not happening. I am going to choose in every moment to take a deep breath, take my time in responding. That's the other thing. I used to be, back in the day, very reactive. And I noticed over the last few months that has shifted dramatically. When I'm talking about in relationship with men, they would message me and I would be keyboard warrior right back to them because I'd be reactive, right? And I noticed over the last few months that now I read it, I set it down, I breathe, I come back, I write the message in my notes, I read it back, I listen to the tone, where am I coming from? And I have to be that way. I have to slow myself down. I have to be patient with myself. I have to come into a neutral space. And this is kind of why I love human design and why I studied it for so long and why I used to do readings and everything. Human design is really good about helping you understand how your energy works to bring you into alignment with how you're like, everybody has an alignment of how their energy should flow and what it looks like when it's out of alignment. As a 1-3 emotional manifester, I am not meant to make a decision until I'm in neutrality, which means I have to allow myself to swing between the extremes, feel that. And when I hit that slow, steady gray area, that neutral state, then and only then can I respond or make a decision. And it's taken me a long time to master that. But I feel like I'm finally hitting that stride. And it's made me so very proud of myself. So I don't know what patterns are showing up for you. And I don't know if this podcast was of any help to anybody, but whatever patterns are showing up for you, it's happening for you so that you will see it as bluntly as you can so that you can choose differently in each moment. Because it's when you're in the thick of it, it's when you're at the crossroads, it's when you're in the trigger, it's when the thing happens externally that you're being asked to respond differently. And that's the only thing you're ever asked to do. Respond differently, and you will experience it differently. Yes, we can have terrible things that happen in our life. We can get in accidents. People can die. We can lose jobs. We can lose marriages. We can lose friends. We can get sick. We can break a bone. We can have an organ that decides it doesn't want to be in our body anymore. Whatever it is. But stress only happens when we're reactive, when our nervous system is engaged because of what's happening. So when you recognize that moment that you're active, your nervous system is triggered and you choose to stop and say, I'm going to take a deep breath. And I'm going to sit with this until it neutralizes. And then I'm going to make a decision. And you know what is the most amazing thing too, is I have a client, she's a former private mentor student who still pops in and buys combo sessions from time to time. She messaged me not that long ago, and she had a similar thing where something happened that was outside of her control externally, and she fucking nailed her regulation. I was so proud of her. And this is it. Like, we're in the throes of these patterns, of these old versions of us, these old situations being triggered because it's saying you're at the crossroads and you know you're supposed to go left and you normally continuously go right. We're going to give you one more time. Are you ready? Because if you can go left this time and the next one you can go left again, we know you're ready to move all the way into that frequency. And that's what's happening. And those things have to come up because if there's any residual baggage from those old versions of you, it needs to be cleansed and transmuted. You can't take it in to the new frequencies. You can't. It doesn't hold density in the same way that the third and fourth dimension does. And I know that every time I respond differently, I'm letting go of so much weight and pressure internally. And while it's fucking hard sometimes, and it takes discipline and courage, it's worth it. So know you're not alone. And if you are struggling with this, book a session with me or find someone you resonate with and get the help you need. Because sometimes it's just having the aha moment or having the support to shift that changes everything. I would love to hear your feedback if you are struggling with patterns right now or old versions of you are coming up. And this month, March 2025, is one of the most intense months. So if you haven't listened to my March energy update on YouTube or the eclipse update on YouTube, I've been pretty regular with putting up updates lately. Please go listen. Go listen. It may help. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.